Welcome back, beautiful souls, to the Luminary podcast. I am your host, Annie Perry, professional psychic, seer, galactic channel, spirituality, and manifestation teacher. All the things, all the multi-dimensional things, just like you. I hope that you guys have had an absolutely transformational eclipse portal. I am recording this the day of the solar eclipse. We're closing out the eclipse portal with this very dreamy and magnetic and yet extremely transformational solar eclipse. And honestly, transformational is the only word that I feel like encapsulates and describes what we have been through over the last 2 weeks that we've been inside of this portal. It's just been eye-opening. For those who are open to transformation, it has been eye-opening. For those who are in the resistance to transformation, it has probably felt like you have been dragged through the mud and you are just crawling out of it now, trying to get your bearings, trying to stand up. And the truth is that the more that we resist, we're going to talk a lot about resistance today as we learn to master law of attraction, one of the most important things that you will learn to do as a new earth architect. Resistance is really just holding yourself back from the next level, from the next stage, from the next phase of life. You are always in motion. Your life cannot be stagnant. Truly, you are always in motion. So even if you feel like you've been doing the same thing every single day, if you've been cooking, as I like to say to my clients, if you've been cooking some manifestations inside of you, then they will come to fruition. But if you've been in the resistance, resisting change and desiring for things to stay the same and being filled with the fear of what change brings you, then all that you can truly manifest is more problems, more issues, more bumps in the road. Those are the physical manifestations of resistance and being in a resistant state. So lean into it. Even if you have to go stand outside, scream at the stars, say, I release my resistance. Somebody help me. No, well, you will get some supernatural help if you do that, but you don't have to stand outside and scare your neighbors. I'm actually coming to you from vacation. I am on vacation right now. I am out in Eastern Washington at the property that my parents own. It is on a winery out in the desert. So there is desert vibes, and then you turn the corner and you're on this like lush, beautiful winery property. And it is warm and sunny out here. I've got the AC going. It feels like I stepped back in time about 3 months because we did not get a very hot summer in the Seattle area. It was a very mild summer, to say the least about it. And coming out here for the past week, it has just felt like I've stepped back in time. I feel like I got my summer vibes. I spent some time in the mountains, which was so incredibly beautiful. All of the leaves are turning up here in the Pacific Northwest, in the mountains, and even in the city. But then I left the city and the mountains behind, and I came out here to Eastern Washington. This is probably something that most people don't know about Washington State, is that it's like 2 different states that are combined into one. Once you get away from the mountains and you're on the other side, it's pretty much all desert until you reach Montana or whatever is to the east of me. I never drive that far. I only come this far because it's really just desert out here. And what is so incredible, and I'm so grateful, is that it's the perfect climate for vineyards. And so there's actually a lot of different vineyards out here. And I'm so grateful that my parents bought this property on the vineyard and that I get to stay here whenever someone else is not staying here. And so it is an Airbnb property for the busy part of the year. And then after that, it's just family and close friends. So I'm really grateful. And I've just been walking around today on the property. I walk through all of the vineyards, and honestly, I act like I own the place. We do not own the vineyard. We just own one of the homes on the property. But I've just been walking around. I walk through all of the vineyards, and the owners really don't mind. They don't care if you walk through, and just been like touching the grapes and the vines and channeling them and appreciating them and staring up at the sun. And there's not very many people out here during the week. It's really a weekend place. And so there haven't been too many people driving by. There's been a lot of workers driving by and just staring at me like, what is this lady doing? Just like touching all of the nature and like staring at the sun. And I probably look like I'm in some sort of trance, and I really am. I was in a trance today of just pure appreciation, pure gratitude. I was like staring at the sun, and I was like, just consume me. Just take me back to pure source energy. Just fill me with that light once more, and I remember everything. That's always the feeling that comes up in me when I stare at the sun, and I know you're not supposed to stare at the sun, so don't do it, because I know what I'm doing, but you probably don't know what I'm doing, so don't stare at the sun yourself. Just let me tell you about my experience staring at the sun, and I don't blind myself. I actually don't even know how I started doing it, but I can stare at the sun for a long time, and my vision is not any worse than it ever has been. But really a little bit of sun gazing, especially in the early morning and the late evening, sunrise and sunset, it's very good for you. And you can look up all of the science and research on that. But what my guide said is like, this is your life force. Like, this is your tether to life force, is the sun. And being able to be in the sun without fear, without hesitation, without villainizing that the sun is going to do all these really damaging things to you. If you practice balance and restraint, it's just like this amazing experience that you can have with filling yourself up with pure, radiant life force energy. And don't burn yourself. Maybe I shouldn't give guidance to people on how to interact with the sun, because y'all are going to end up sunburnt and with sunspots and, other things that I won't mention. And you're going to say that psychic told me to go stand out under the sun. So maybe just don't right now. Do it in the very early morning at that sunrise and sunset, and just allow yourself to receive from the sun. It's our tether to life force. And I feel so much appreciation and so much gratitude. And especially today, the day of the solar eclipse, it felt like I could just be consumed back to the sun. And that's the direction that we're all going anyway. I don't want to freak anyone out. Now I've told you to stand under the sun and stare at the sun and let it consume you. And your doctors are freaking out. Okay, so you know what I mean. Just on a heart level, like just so much appreciation and gratitude and love, and feeling that light force fill me back up and rejuvenate me for my job here on Earth. And I love coming out here. A lot of you guys follow me on Instagram, and I share on my stories there, what I get up to out here. It's a place I've been many, many times, especially since my spiritual awakening. And I love to come out here because I can talk to the Arcturians and they can come hang out. They can come visit me. So they'll usually send a few of their golden orb ships out to hang out. They put on a little bit of a light show as long as there's not really anyone around. And the reason for that is the law of free will. When it comes to extraterrestrial interactions, Most people have this big default sign up in their energy that says, no fucking way, like, do not come near me. I don't want to see it. Way too scary. So we deal with a lot of, making sure this place is pretty emptied out, and it's usually pretty late at night, and everything has to be very dark. And you're out here in the desert, like, there are no street lights. There's a few other units, but at night the lighting is very, very dark. So it's like pitch black. And I'm just sitting out here in the desert with a blanket around me, talking to aliens. And we have had the most heartfelt conversations probably that I've ever had, especially with the Lightbringer Council of Light. So every ship has their own council. There's so many councils. So when people are like, yeah, I was talking to the Pleiadian Council, I'm like, which one? There's like 80 of them. But I know what you mean, and they all stream back to the same central core consciousness. And I was talking to the Lightbringer, which is the Council of 8, or also known as the 9D Council, and not because there's 9 of them, there's 8 of them, but they're in the 9th dimension. It gets a little confusing. And I was just talking to them about what it feels like to be human, and like the absolutely astronomical depth of emotion that we can feel here. It is astounding. It is breathtaking. It is nearly unheard of. I've talked about this a little tiny bit on other podcast episodes, but the human itself, because they combined so many other gene keys or codes together to create what we know as the Earth human, or mostly called the Gaian. That's what will be referred to in the future. But because they drew from so many different species, we just have this huge emotional scale. And it's enormous. And it's all the feels, when you're like, I'm filled with all the feels, and sometimes you just want to go home and lay down, and it's all too overwhelming and it's too much. A lot of the times it's because you're kind of new to these bodies. Like, yeah, maybe you've been around, like me, I've been on this planet for 13,000 years. That's nothing. That's like I just got here. That's like I just got here last week. That's like the length of my vacation out here. Been out here for 6 days, and it's like that's like how long in the grand scheme of things that we've been here. It's like 6 days. It's a very, 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 very short amount of time, even if you were here all the way from the beginning of just Gaians being on the planet after the fall of Lemuria and Atlantis. And so it's a lot to feel, and I definitely know that a lot of you guys are feeling it during this eclipse portal. And I would say now more than ever is the time to lean into what it means to be human and the fullness of what we can express through our lifetimes here. It is so common for us as starseeds and light workers, and whatever title you want to use, they're all good and well. But as galactic travelers who have been on many different planets, it's so easy to say, I want to go home. It's so easy to say, I want to go to the next thing. Somebody come pick me up on a ship and get me out of here. In fact, when I connect, I'll just be totally vulnerable and honest with you guys. Completely real. Whenever I connect to the 9D Council, who is my sending council on the ship, the Lightbringer, the Arcturians, whenever I connect with them, I almost always just start crying and say, please come pick me up. Please take me home. I want to go home. And they know, and I, as my higher awareness, know that it's just my inner child saying, Mom, Dad, please come pick me up. I want to go home. I'm tired of being here. I need a good cry and a nap and some food. And they know, and they totally, completely understand that. And that happens pretty much every single time that I talk to them. In fact, I was discussing with them, how am I going to channel with you guys because we're planning an upcoming episode together where I'm going to be talking to them and channeling them for you. And I was like, how am I going to talk to you guys when I always burst into tears and always start speaking Arcturian light language that is the equivalent of saying, please come pick me up, I want to go home. And, they have so much compassion for it and so much love for it. And so the feeling never really goes away. But I am so in love at this point in my journey with being human and what it means to have a human experience. And as I was talking to them last night, it was just me, a blanket, this huge vastness of the stars just stretching and expanding over me. And their consciousness there with me. And I was telling them about, all of these decisions that I'm trying to make and all of these things that I'm trying to come to terms with and what I want for the next phase of my life here. And I was really struggling and going back and forth. And they just gently said, so you want to be human. That's what you're struggling with, is accepting that you just want to be human. And of course, they always hit the nail on the head. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right. I just want to be human. And I think that sometimes as a light worker and someone on such a very obvious and direct mission, sometimes there's almost this shame that comes up of man, I just want these human things. I don't want everything to have to be about the galactic or the spiritual or the supernatural. There's these very practical human things that I want. And they were like, go get them, manifest them, allow them into your life, live that life, live it to the fullest expression of yourself that you possibly can. Because that too is why we're here. That too is why you came. That too is why you came into these human bodies. It wasn't just to serve other people. It wasn't just to have a spiritual awakening. It wasn't just to go through ascension. You wanted this. You wanted all of it. You wanted the fullness of what it meant to be human. You knew what it meant to be human. You knew the heartache and the heartbreak. You knew the drama. God, we are so dramatic. You knew the drama. You knew the scuffles that you were going to get into. You knew the relationships you were going to have. You knew the heartache and the shouting and the road rage, or however you've been expressing yourself. I really hope it hasn't been road rage. But you knew all the ways that you were going to potentially express yourself here. You saw it all. Just a glimpse. Just the potential, just the possibility. And then you drew on all of the past experiences you've had as a human. And you said, yeah. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah. It's always a fuck yeah. When you're on the other side. It's always a fuck yeah. When you're younger than 3 years old, it's always a fuck yeah. I want to go back. I want to go there. Let's do it again. Let's do it. It's so amazing. You knew what you were getting into, but this time is a little bit different because now you're awakening to what is. Now you're awakening to all of the multidimensional truths. So you get to be all of it. You get to be all of it. You get to be very human. You get to do all of the human things that you want to do. And you get to be very galactic in whatever way that means for you. I know for a lot of you guys, you're still wrapping your mind around how are there all of these other species out there and how can I connect with them? And for many of you, you're trying to figure out what did I come here to do? What was I going to do to help out? And so much of that, the answer to that is who you came to be, is being the fullest expression of you, your authenticity, your truth, your power, what I like to call knowing who the fuck you are. That's your fullest expression. So let's talk about creating, mastering the law of attraction. Many of you guys have taken my free 2-day masterclass, just very simply called the Law of Attraction Masterclass. And I put it in very simplistic terms in that masterclass. It was very introductory on purpose for those who had never been acquainted with the law of attraction or these teachings and who wanted to learn more about manifestation. And I want to go even deeper on this episode. I want to go into some mastery things. So if you're just totally, completely new to law of attraction, I probably recommend taking that free masterclass first. You can take it on wellspringofficial.com. It's 2 days, and you want to take it all the way through to the second day when we do the clearings. And that's been really, really helpful for a lot of you guys to realize that you can do your own clearings of old identities, old stagnant energy, old stories on yourself. You don't need a guru to do that, although it is nice sometimes to receive that from others, and I certainly do myself because it gets a little tiring and annoying to be the, as I tell my mom, the Wizard of Oz, where you're like, I have access to all of the information and I can do all of the energy work and all of the clearings, but sometimes, as my guide said, I just want to be human. I just want to receive it from someone else. So you can do it to yourself. And that's a skill that I think is worth learning for everyone. And the basics and fundamentals in that class is really, really valuable for starting to build up this foundation of mastering the law of attraction. The law of attraction is the magnetics of how we create no matter where you are, no matter which dimension, which density, which planet, which species, it does not matter. Every single being that is self-aware, so that would be technically 3rd density through 7th density, every single self-aware being who steps into that creator mode, and that's exactly what you did when you came into 3rd density thousands of years ago, you create through the magnetics of the universe, which we have just conveniently decided to call the law of attraction, because these magnetics work whether you like them or not, whether you agree with them or not, whether you refute them or not, which is very ironic because my first spirituality teacher was a manifestation teacher, and to this day, she is so completely anti-law of attraction, which is really funny because she teaches manifestation, and the way that she teaches it, it does work, but it's just different words for law of attraction. Like, it's like the same magnetics. No matter where you go, these magnetics are at play, and that's just how shit works around here. So I was with that manifestation teacher for the first 2 years of my spiritual awakening. So from 2020, right at the beginning of 2020, literally it was like January 8th, January 6th, something like that. I got introduced to her work and I stuck with it for 2 years straight until I really started hitting a wall, and I couldn't figure out, like, why is it working for me sometimes, but not all of the time for all of the things that I wanted. And so I would go and I would just study every single manifestation teacher out there. I mean, I'll just spout a bunch of them off for you right now. I mean, Dr. Joe Dispenza, I learned all of his meditation techniques. Many of you followed me on that journey I did where I did his meditations like every day for 6 months straight. It was wild. Really big names like Reagan Hillier, who teaches NLP, tons of online different teachers, Lacey Phillips, Melanie Ann Layer, all of these kind of big names around manifestation. And then Abraham found me. This is always so funny to me because I was very open to learning all of these different techniques, and I was learning them and evaluating all of them. And I was not very open to learning from Esther Hicks. Abraham Hicks is the name that we've kind of given Abraham, but Abraham is a 6th density higher self that has committed to bringing law of attraction teachings to humanity during this time of ascension, and they've been pretty damn good at it. You know, Esther has been channeling Abraham since 1985, and they're the most well-known name in the entire world when it comes to law of attraction teachings. And they even brought the entire, idea of law of attraction, the verbiage, the name for it, all of it to humanity. Almost as like a branding campaign that has been very, very successful, because it wouldn't matter what you call this. I like to call it the magnetics of the universe because it just helps me and my very Arcturian brain understand it better. And the irony is that I had so much resistance to receiving any information from Abraham and their teachings because I had this bias against them that I had learned from my first spirituality teacher. Some of you know exactly who I'm talking about, and yeah. Anyways, so Abraham found me through their quotes and things that have been shared online, and I just felt this deep resonance and decided to open myself up to learn from them. So I ordered one of their books. I got Ask and It Is Given, which is an excellent book. I've talked about it before. I keep it on my desk somewhere where I can just flip it open and receive a channeled transmission in a high frequency very quickly, any time of day. But I still kept searching, and I went all over the board. I mean, every manifestation teacher that you can think of. I went all the way back to Napoleon Hill, and eventually I found Neville Goddard, who I am completely and absolutely obsessed with. And I think that out of all of the information at this point in my journey, after everything I've learned, Neville's is the one that I'm just like, we're on the same wavelength. And I even looked, I was like, maybe I had some sort of split past life where I was Neville, because we talk the same way and we explain things with the same words. And I didn't though, but we're tapping into the same thing. So kudos to him wherever he is. But I went everywhere and I looked everywhere and I tried everything. And eventually one day, I want to say that this was in 2023, I sat down and I was like, let me just look at all of the information that I have, all of these strategies, all these things that people are teaching, and all the different titles and words that they use. And this is something that they teach us in branding and marketing, is that if you have a skill, you just wrap up that skill and you give it a unique name, and then that's what you sell, is the unique name, so that you stand out from the crowd. So it doesn't sound like, oh, I'm selling manifestation. Well, everyone's selling manifestation in the spirituality industry. Like, what else could you name it so that it's like very the Annie formula? Ooh. And I don't really like the gimmicky sales stuff. So I'll just call it exactly what the fuck it is. It's manifestation. It's creation, and it's the only way that we actually create in this reality. You are under the illusion that you create things by going to work and getting a paycheck and going to the store and buying the thing. And you believe you're under such a strong, powerful illusion that that's how you created your life. That's how you got your home. That's how you got everything that's inside of your home. And you wanted a partner, so you went to the bar and you got online and you dated all of these people, and that's how you found your partner. And the truth is, yes, you went through all of those motions, but what actually created the life that you have is the law of attraction. There is nothing else that can create in our universe. This is the only magnetics that draw two things together or repel two things apart. And that has absolutely been the hardest concept for most people, especially taking my courses and classes. Like, at first they're like, what, I didn't create any of this? So the ego has to go through this major, take a major hit that it did not in fact create everything. That what actually created everything was you using the law of attraction, totally unbeknownst to you. So I'm going to let that cook for a second and go back to my story so your ego can kind of lick its wound for a second. So I gathered up all of the information I had, and I made this like crazy spreadsheet, and I kept like writing down all the formulas and how I had manifested things in the past and what all these people had taught me. And I realized everything just led back, like all of the roads led back to Rome. And I was like, everything just leads back to law of attraction, that it's exactly what it said it was. It's exactly what Abraham said it was. And I should have believed the channeled entity before I went through all of the loops that the humans were, having me jump through. And that's when I said, okay, fuck it. I'm just going to go all in on learning straight from the OG, the original gangster Abraham. They're having a laugh that I said that. They're having a real laugh. They have a great sense of humor too. So I went all in, and that was about a year ago. And it transformed everything in my life. Absolutely everything. So if you have dabbled, put your toe in a little bit to Abraham's teachings and they didn't resonate with you, that's totally okay. Because when I first started getting into their teachings, I felt so much internal resistance. I was like, I just don't understand how it can be so easy. At least the humans give me, 49 hoops that I need to jump through, a big to-do list, and they charge me $5,000 to learn how to do this. Like, I just don't understand how it can be so simple. What they teach in Law of Attraction is so counterintuitive to how we do things here on Earth, and that is why you will feel resistance when you first start mastering Law of Attraction. You're just going to feel that internal human resistance, the resistance of the mind that has been used to, no, I go to work. I earn the paycheck. That's how we bought everything in our house. I don't need this girl telling me that I bought this frying pan through Law of Attraction. Otherwise, I wouldn't have it. That's ridiculous. It was $20. I gave them $20 at the store. I got in my car and I went to the store and I went looking for frying pans. Oh yeah. I went looking. I sought it out. And it came to me. But Annie Perry, you don't understand. I got married last year, 2 years, 10 years, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, and we had a wedding. And we were given all of these gifts, and that's how I got everything. So it was freely given, something that you needed for your new home, for your new life. You knew you were going to need things for the next chapter, the next phase of your life, and they were all freely given to you? Well, that's amazing. That sounds an awful lot like manifestation to me. No, Annie Perry, you don't understand. My boss's uncle's cousin named Richard knew that I was looking for a job, and he called me and he offered me the job, but I still had to interview for it. I still had to prove myself for it, and that's how I got the job that I have now. So you were looking for a job, and somebody called you out of the blue and offered you one. That sounds an awful lot like manifestation to me. Just with a bunch of extra steps. But Annie Perry, when I go to the store, my husband tells me that there ain't a thing there that I need. And yet I find all of these things. So I didn't really need them. I just found them. And I just wanted them. So I pulled out my credit card and I bought them. I bought them. It was me. So you're telling me that you didn't need anything. You were just free and open to receiving, and a bunch of things came to you. And you had the abundance to buy them, to pay for them, to bring them home. To the despair of your husband, but nonetheless, that sounds an awful lot like receiving a bunch of abundance to me. That sounds an awful lot like something that I call overflow. And I know you're tired from all of the worky work that you do. That is how you believe that you earn money to buy all of these things. So let me show you how to create without that extra step. I think if you were all in a room here with me today, all of the hands would go up if I said, do you want to learn how to receive everything in your life for free? every hand would go up. In fact, the highest hand would be your husband. And he would say, my God, she spends too much. Like, please, Annie Perry, teach us how to do it for free. Well, some part of you must have asked. Because, darling, you got it. So we start by mastering the law of attraction by remembering or learning, if this is your first time, what the law of vibration is. Law of vibration is a very simple universal law. Everything is in motion. Everything is vibrating. It doesn't matter if it's a rock and it appears stationary, as they like to say in physics. Wait a minute, Annie Perry, that is stationary. How can that be vibrating? Absolutely everything in our reality is vibrating. Some of it is vibrating very, very, very slowly. Two of my favorite examples of this is, number one, they can measure the vibration of fabric. This is why I only wear cotton, linen, silk sometimes, wool occasionally, but most of my clothes is only cotton. That's why I don't look as snazzy as I used to. I actually cannot bear the feeling of polyester on my skin. And the reason for that is that polyester vibrates at the same frequency as a dead human being, a corpse. So yeah, that corpse still has a vibration to it because it's organic matter, but there is no life force left in it. And after you get done processing and adding chemicals and all of these other additives into the different fabrics that they use for synthetic fabrics, polyester, even rayon, which I hoped would have been kind of okay because they make it out of tree pulp, but they add so many chemicals in the process that even that just makes me feel like I want to crawl out of my skin if it touches me. But what they learned from measuring the vibration of cotton is that cotton vibrates at about the same as a living human body. Silk is a little bit lower, which is why I really kind of limit silk, even though silk feels really nice. But wool and linen vibrate much, much faster, much higher frequency, literally. It's a measurable vibration. Absolutely everything in our reality is in motion. My second experience with this is that after I started having my spiritual awakening, I would get out of meditation and I would start looking around, and maybe this has happened to you too, but I'd start looking around and I would notice that everything I was looking at was vibrating. It was moving back and forth, sometimes up and down. Everything was moving. Even if I look around right now, I can see things just vibrating. I can just see the vibration of the world around me. It's very subtle and I don't have to pay attention to it all the time. But if you go into a deep meditation and you find that stillness in that center and then you open your eyes and start looking around, you're going to start seeing the world around you vibrating. You're going to start seeing things for how they actually are. You'll notice that it's especially profound if you meditate out in nature and you have that experience out there. You can almost start to see the fifth dimensional golden glow coming off of the plants and the trees. You can literally see the life force energy moving up and down. If you've ever watched the movie The Matrix, they have those green lines of numbers moving up and down. Well, I've seen that before in the Matrix that we live in, but it's not green, it's gold. And it's not the numbers that we use here on Earth. It's more of a light language that you'll see if you get really good at it. But for the most part, if you're a novice and you go out in nature and you meditate and open your eyes, you can start to see some of these golden lines moving up and down in the trees, in the plants, and you're literally watching them receiving life force energy and sending out life force energy. So because everything is in motion, the creator, that being all of us, all self-aware beings, are back into their creator state. But the creator needed a way to create. How the hell do you think a planet was formed? How do you think all of those stars that you look out and see, how do you think they were all formed? That someone had a giant fucking hammer That there's just a big rock quarry out there somewhere, this like etheric rock quarry, and they're just hammering away, and they're like, oh, this looks good enough. This is about the size of a planet. That'll work. Send it out there. No. Everything is vibrating. Everything is in motion. And what that allows the creator to do is to utilize magnetics to create planets, to create solar systems. We use it to create in nature. This is something that you learn how to do in between lifetimes. You're not just floating around playing a harp. You're actually usually on a planet or in the etheric realm, but they'll usually take you to a planet and let you start playing around with the elements and start learning how to create with the elements. And if you're quite advanced, you might start learning how to grow something from a seed using only the power of your mind, your energy. You don't have hands. You don't have hands when you are outside of this physical body. I know that always freaks people out, but you don't need them. You don't need hands. You don't need legs. You're literally light. And that light moves using consciousness and desire. Where do you desire to be? When you're outside of a body, you just think of where you want to be and you're there. People wonder how I astral travel so quickly. I don't have to swim through the stars. To get all the way back to Arcturus, if I had to swim through the stars as like a little fish-like spirit that like had to take, time and space to get there, it would take me forever to reach the Lightbringer and have a single conversation with them. No, I think of the place where I want to go, and there I am, in spirit form. So in order for the creator, of which we are, to utilize the magnetics of the universe, which we shall call the law of attraction, you need 3 components. This is the first component. You need a self-aware entity, right? 3rd through 7th density, self-aware entity. There is a very subtle degree to which the 1st and 2nd density uses law of attraction. But the reason that I'm not going to count it today is because I'm talking about creation through desire. The way that 1st and 2nd density creates is for survival. For them to survive, for them to have offspring, for the seeds to be planted and renewed. So they don't do it driven out of a desire to create something that has never existed before. They're doing essentially what they were programmed to do. But their survival mechanisms is also through the law of attraction. So to create consciously, you need a self-aware entity. So someone in 3rd through 7th density. Number 2, you need contrast. This is very important. This is a word that Abraham uses a lot in their teachings. And if you want to learn about their teachings, absolutely. If they don't resonate with you and maybe the way that I explain things does, that's great. And I do believe that the right teacher will be brought to you. But you need contrast. Contrast of what you don't want. If you do not know what you don't want, you cannot possibly know what you do want. I think we've all had that conversation with our partner where it's like, what do you want to eat? And they won't say anything. And so you're just at this impasse and both of you get hangry and it's just like, oh my God, somebody pick something. It's like, well, what do you not want? Like, let me list everything and you can tell me what you don't want. And eventually we'll find one thing that you're okay with. So you need contrast. You need contrast of what you do not want. This is so important. This is a concept I really drive home in my manifestation programs. Like right now I'm teaching Elysium. It is so incredibly important for you to realize that nothing in your life will be wasted. Nothing is wasted. What you learned in the past showed you what you do not want. That is valuable information. Your life would never change. It would never transform. You would never go through any kind of metamorphosis if you did not have experiences that showed you what you do not want. So you could say, you know what? I actually don't like that. What happens to most people, because you are utilizing the law of attraction regardless, is that you get so caught up in what you don't want that you accidentally manifest it over and over and over and over and over and over again. And I'm going to teach you how to stop doing that. So you need a self-aware being, and you need the contrast of what you don't want. And the third component that you absolutely must have is the contrast of what you do want. Ooh, yeah. A bunch of you right now are thinking of what you want. Something you have always wanted. Something that has felt a little out of your reach. Something that you're like, I've been plotting. I've been plotting, Annie Perry, for how I can get that thing, how I can make it happen, how I can do it, how I can go there, how I can afford it, how I can try it, how I can put myself out there. Give it a go. How can I get that ticket and take that ride? Well, now you're speaking my language, because that's what I love and that's what I'm in the business of. You need the contrast of what you do want. So the way that the law of attraction works magnetically is that you are a magnet. You are one part of the magnet. And it is through your attention, whatever you are focused on, that is what you will draw to you. You went into the store looking for a frying pan. You were focused on something and you drew it to you. You probably took a bunch of extra steps because you're human and we like to make things very complicated because we can't see the energy. But you could have sat on your couch and thought about a frying pan. And if you did that with enough conviction and enough belief that that frying pan would show up at your door, someone would knock on your door, probably your annoying neighbor, and say, "Hey neighbor, I just had this extra frying pan and I wanted to know if you'd like it." And you would get up off your couch and have a silly, stupid smile on your face because you would see the power that you have. And I guarantee that you would thank your neighbor for that frying pan. You would close the door. You would run back to your couch, jump on it, and start thinking of something a hell of a lot bigger than a frying pan. Where your attention lands, energy expands. When you start thinking about something, anything, you start to draw it to you. You start to create it in the non-physical. This is how we create some of the shit that happens to us that we're like, why did that happen? Well, it was a fear that I had that I couldn't stop thinking about. And then, of course, it happened. I couldn't stop thinking that today it's raining in Seattle and I'm late to work. So, of course, there's going to be traffic. And then I get into the traffic and it's everywhere. I cannot believe this. Where your attention lands, energy expands. You will draw to you what you focus on. Now, this is the part where most people say, well, I've been thinking about that house that I wanted, or that car that I wanted, or I've wanted a boyfriend for 7 years, and like, where are they? And you start listing off all of the things that you have wanted that have not shown up in your reality. And I'm so glad that you did. In fact, I would love it if you would grab a piece of paper and start writing all of them down right now. Because what has happened is that you have introduced, through your supreme creator being, magnificent conductor of energies, and unfortunate overthinker, you have created and introduced resistance into your field. Resistance to that which you desire. Most people that I talk to, that I teach, that I coach, can tell me at least 5 things that they want to manifest, that they want to create, that they're like, you know what? I couldn't figure out the 3D way to do it, so now I'm turning to magic. Like, please help me. And I'm all about it. Like, I will be your fucking magician. Let's do it. most people have ideas about what they want, but they don't know why they're having resistance to it. Well, if you think back to the first law that we talked about, the law of vibration, everything is in motion, including you. And you are a conductor of energies, so you have a whole range of negative emotions that vibrate very, very slowly. And you have a whole range of emotions that vibrate very, very quickly. And since you are the other side of the magnet, calling to you that which you desire, that which you focus upon, if your field is full of low vibrational, slow moving energies, you've essentially asked the manifestation, please swim across this field of mud to me, and you better do it very, very fast. You better move very fast, and it's just drowned in the mud and the muck. No, you're not coming. You need to come faster. It's not working, Annie Perry. I'm thinking about what I want, and now I'm getting frustrated because it didn't show. No one knocked on my door. My neighbor hasn't given me a frying pan yet. That guy that I like never texted me back, and now I'm going to be single forever. And somebody bought the house that I wanted, that I was manifesting. And my friend got a new car, but I didn't get the new car. And now it's not working for me, Annie Perry. Now that manifestation has flung itself about as far away from you as it can get, because you've introduced even more resistance. There's many different types of resistance. And I'm going to teach you about a few of them. The first one is negative energy. Negative energy just slows everything down in your field. This is why Abraham's teachings are very straightforward. If you learn from Esther and Abraham Hicks, they teach you that feeling good is how you're going to allow your manifestations in, because when you feel good, you are vibrating faster and your field is moving faster and everything will come to you faster. I've tried it. It 100% works. But you're a complex human being and you have a lot of anxieties and a lot of things that you think about, and you have absolutely every trigger possible to introduce more resistance into your field, to where you will be convinced that this does not work for you for certain things. And then you'll start a whole story about how you're not good enough because you don't have the thing that the girls in your friend group have, yada, yada, yada. I've heard all of the stories. I demolish them. I annihilate those stories. Just ask the people in my manifestation groups. They're like, I came to her and I had a negative story and she obliterated it. Usually in about 3 sentences, but I'm very talkative. So it's usually a large elaboration on those 3 sentences. I want you to start thinking of yourself as a compilation of beliefs that are all stories. And so you've got so many stories going on about who you believe you are and the life that you're living and where you come from and what you can have and what you can't have and yada, yada, yada. I've heard all of it. I could turn a pauper into a prince, okay? So you come to me with all the pauper stories about how you're not good enough because you come from the wrong side of the tracks, but you can't spend that money on that one thing and you only have a very limited income. I've heard all of it. Trust me, it's no fucking match. It sometimes is so unfair for the old story when it meets me, because I'm like, it just never stood a chance. It never stood a chance. Most of your resistance comes from these old stories that you have about who you are, what you can have, what has happened in your life, all the reasons why something has not happened for you. And it's just this incredibly intricate story. So here's what's happening energetically. You are focused on the story, on the reasons why not. Why something hasn't happened for you. Something about you and your life and your limitations, your fake ass limitations, by the way. You are focused on those. And so you have drawn to you through the law of attraction the antithesis of what you want. That means the opposite, which is usually the absence of what you want. You say you want a relationship, but all that you can focus on is how you've been single for so long and all of the problems you had in your past relationships. And maybe you don't want a relationship, but maybe you do. And so now you have this field around you of resistance to the relationship that could just very easily be yours. And you can stop it anytime that you want. You're a sovereign creator being. You could create a better one that suits you, one that is more resonant with who you are. I mean, I hope that you have learned something from all of your past relationships, because now you have one of the 3 components. You know what you don't want. And if you really look at those stories, you'll start to draw out what you do want. But you still got those stories, the negative ones, the reasons why not you, why you can't, all the limitations in your life. Most of you are in the spiritual community, and so you've got all the stories about how you're healing this, that, and the other, and so that's why you can, you don't, and you shouldn't, and you haven't. It's bullshit. You've got all of those stories, and what those stories have created is something very important. If you're taking notes on this, I want you to write this down. You have created momentum. Momentum through the law of attraction. You focus so hard on something that you didn't want, that you are surrounded by it. And what you do when you are surrounded by it, when you focus on something for long enough, is that you start to create physical evidence of it. You thought there was something wrong with you coming out of your past relationship, that you weren't good enough, that you weren't worthy enough, that you were never going to find the right person, that it's totally helpless and hopeless for you. And you started to create the evidence of it. And a year passed and 2 years passed. Now you've created so much evidence and so much momentum. And 3 years passed and 4 years passed, and you're still single and you still can't find that magic person. By the way, there isn't a magic person, and relationships are a lot of really hard, deep work. But you still want those photos to post on Instagram or Facebook or wherever you are, so you can show your happy-go-lucky life. And I want that for you, but I want it to be real. And in order to create something real, you've got to stop creating the evidence of what you don't want. You have to stop focusing on what you don't want, because you have created so much incredible momentum. You have surrounded yourself with evidence. It's popping up everywhere. That's the garden that you've been planting for the last so many years. And you can apply that to any story, right? I meet people and they usually want one of 4 things, or maybe multiple of the 4 things, or maybe all 4 things. They usually want a house, new cars, a relationship, and money. I don't know why. We're such a creative species. You'd think we would have more that we would want, but pretty much everybody boils down to those 4 things. And that's all right. I love all of those things, and I manifest all of those things too. So you want one of those things. You can apply that story to all of it. I see it a lot with relationships, with money. You've got all the reasons why you can't have the money. Ooh, money. Money is my little specialty. And it's because money is locked in a cage for humans. It's money is on the other side of this cage, and someone told you you just got to break the code. You got to figure out how to get in there to get that money. And for most people, they follow the traditional route that everyone else is doing, and they go find a job and they go work for someone else to make the money. Right? I gotta make the money, it's totally ironic, because you could make money literally out of thin air, but sure, go and work for it. And so you've got this story that you've created. Usually for many of us, if you come from working class family, it starts very young. Mine was right away. My parents were you got to work and work really hard, and you got to work hard and hard, and life is hard and work is hard. And if you want that money, it's hard. And everything in this world is just going to grind you down and wear you out. And so by the time you get the money, you're going to be too ground down and worn out to spend it on anything. And so you should only spend it very frugally on things, because you're going to be too tired and ground down and worn out. When I was 3 years old, I was holy shit, this place sounds awful. sounds like prison. But you know what? That story built up year after year after year after year. And I can already energetically look out at like 99% of you. There's like one person out there listening that's like, actually, I just married rich. I love it. I love it. But most of us built up that story of working for money, working for money, working for money, working for money. That story has so much momentum in your field. Your entire life is built around the evidence from that story. Everything. This is why people are so afraid to lose their job, to get laid off, to get fired, to not have a job. Absolute terror. Invoking anxiety attacks and trips to the doctor and all of this just fear running through your body and adrenaline and catastrophe. Everything possible that could go wrong because your life is built around the story that you have to work for money. And that story has so much momentum that it's just coming at you like a freight train. And I know, I had to stare down that fucking train like Neo until it stopped. You tell these stories and you create this momentum through your thoughts, which become energy. And the energy is magnetic. And so it manifests and creates evidence. And you see the evidence and you create a belief. And now you're locked in. You in that story, you're locked the fuck in. You broke up with your partner. There were tons of emotions triggering a landslide of energy. All the negative thoughts about why you're not good enough. And then they left or whatever. And you started to build evidence. You're not good enough. Never going to find the right person. Nobody wants you. Nobody loves you. No one's ever going to love you. And then you started to look around and there was no one there. And you built evidence and you built evidence and you built evidence and it gained momentum and it gained momentum until you were literally in a vortex of a story that you don't want to be in. You learned as a kid that you need to get a job, that work is really hard. You need to be a good boy or a good girl while you're at work so you don't lose your job, you don't get fired, and you don't fall into the poverty or other people's pity, thinking that you're not good enough. So you go to that job that you don't really like because you learned somewhere on TV or in movies or from your parents or from your friends' parents that everybody hates their jobs. But you go to that job and you don't like it and you focus on all the things that you don't like about it, and then more of those things pop up and you feel trapped. And now you're stuck because this story is entwined with the story about money. And that's the story that you're the most afraid of in the whole entire world. So you're willing to put up with this story so that you don't have to live in the story of the scary money poverty. So you get up every day and you go to the job that you hate and you're ground down and you're tired every day and your body is rebelling against you and shutting down, and you have all of these illnesses and things that keep popping up, and you're trying to hold it together, but you're surrounded by evidence of what you don't want. Everybody has a story like this in their life. The story starts in your thoughts, which becomes energy inside of the body. You activate the magnetism of law of attraction. You create evidence. You build beliefs. And now you're locked in to a cycle. I'm going to teach you right now how to get the fuck out of those cycles. So if you've been telling the story of poverty or smallness or a certain facade that you need to keep up, a certain appearance that you need to keep up, that you are a worker or an employee, right? That's a story a lot of you guys are trying to get out of right now. You're like, I don't know what I want to do, but I just know I don't want to be in the story of me being a worker and an employee, working for other people, unhappy in my job. You might be telling the story of being single. You might be telling the story of how you've had to settle in life. All of those stories creating tremendous momentum. So how do you stop? How do you start telling the story of what you want? This is the work that I do. This is literally what I help people do all day in my manifestation programs. With my clients, this is what we do. They have a story, whatever it is, doesn't stand a chance because I teach them how to stop that story and how to tell new ones that are the stories of what they want. And all of a sudden, they're manifesting and living inside of a new life. I'm not just teaching you how to manifest an object. I'm teaching you how to create a new life, one that you like, one that you love, one that you want to be in, one that you like to wake up inside of every single day. And when something comes into that reality that displeases you, you have the skill now to stop telling that story that displeases you and start telling the story that pleases you, that aligns with you, that lights you up, that aligns with the truth of who you really actually are, which is a story that only you can tell. But this is what I want you to remember first and foremost, before I give you the steps of stopping the old stories, starting new ones. Because you have momentum going of the old story. Momentum, it's like a tornado. It's got things in there flying around. It doesn't just dissipate overnight, especially a story that you've been building up momentum for years. You are still going to be creating some of that evidence. It's going to be coming into your reality of the old story. The two stories are going to overlap for a time. Depends on how long it takes you to master this. It depends on how strong your will is. Depends on how strong your self-concept is, which is what we're going to talk about at the very end. But for a time, these two stories are going to overlap because the old one still has momentum. It's a freight train coming at you. Not all of them stop on a dime, especially the really big ones, the ones about career and money and relationships and where you live. Those are the big stories of your life. The story of the frying pan, you could probably stop it on a dime. You could probably say, you know what? No, I'm not open to any new frying pans right now. And I just completely cut off all of that energy and I'm never going to think about frying pans again. You could probably cut that story off in an instant. But the big ones are going to have momentum. And that momentum takes some time to stop. So when I start working with clients and we start to stop the old stories that they've been telling, and we start the new ones, there's this overlap period. Sometimes it's a few days if it's a small story. Sometimes it's a few weeks. Sometimes it's a couple of months before the old story really fully stops and all of that momentum, that evidence that they were creating in their life actually stops. You hear stories of people who are like, well, I manifested this money, but then I also got a bill in the mail. And so I didn't get to spend the money on what I wanted. I had to spend it on the bill. So I feel cheated. Well, you had the old story overlapping with the new story, but now you have evidence that you can manifest money, that you did that. So now you're going to do it again. And the old story is going to stop. Especially if you work on your self-concept. I'll tell you what that is in just a moment. So how do you stop? If you're taking notes, I have 3 points for you. Number 1, you disengage all thoughts about that old story. You stop thinking about it. You stop telling it. You've been telling it in your mind and ruminating over it and telling it to all of your friends and telling it to your coaches and telling it to your mentors. When I work with someone, I'm like, I hear the story the first time. The second time they try to tell me the same story, I immediately say, why are you still telling that story? Because you're feeding it again. You're creating momentum. You're stirring it up. You're starting the tornado all over again. You're revving up the engine. You're pouring gasoline on the fire of what you do not want. You have to disengage all thoughts about it. Number 2, you have to de-trigger all emotions, which created that vibration in the first place. This is the tricky part, especially because emotions are just very challenging, especially for starseeds. If you've come from higher frequencies, if you've come from bodies that just didn't experience these really low, dense feelings like fear and guilt and shame, dealing with the emotional aspect is typically the most challenging. But here's the thing. The more that you engage with the emotions, and I think that this is the part where most people are stuck in the healing loop, they're obsessed with the old story and getting validation of the old story. They're obsessed with the narcissistic family that they came from. They're obsessed with the parent who abused them. They're obsessed with it on a subconscious level. And so they keep telling that story and reliving the pain and reliving the pain and reliving the pain and pouring gasoline on the fire again and again and again and again. And it's like you're agonizing yourself. You're torturing yourself. I understand that you want to process it. I understand that you want it validated. The truth is, you're the only one who can validate it and say, yep, it happened and I don't want to live it again. I know you want to relive the emotions. And many people do. Some people are like, I just really need to process all of these emotions. All right, go take a bubble bath. Go work through it, but do not stay attached to those emotions. Don't bring them out every time you need a hit. Some of those emotions you're literally physically addicted to. That's why you keep telling that story. So sometimes when I'm working with someone, I'm like, we're going cold turkey on this, and like, you're going to have a few really good cries and you're going to feel things inside of your body. You're going to have energy moving. You're going to have your nervous system kind of tweak out that now you don't get to go back and relive that trauma over and over and over and over again. And this especially comes up with money. Money is an incredibly emotional topic. People cry over money and things that have happened to them. I know. I used to cry over like the poverty that I came from, that I experienced, that I didn't even realize until I was almost 30 years old. But the truth is, the more that you keep going back to that old story, to those old emotions, and you keep reliving it and reliving it and reliving it, there's no one who's coming to validate it. Your therapist can help you, but you're the only one that can validate it. You're the only one that can say that's enough. Enough is enough. I'm done reliving that story. I know that it happened to me. I know that it happened. I know what happened to me in my childhood. I know. Most of the people around me would completely and absolutely, emphatically deny my experience that I had in childhood. It's just beyond their comprehension. I don't give a fuck. I know what happened to me. I've validated my story. I chose to stop it, to disengage with it, to disengage the emotions, because I believe that I deserve a better life. I don't want to live the same life over and over and over again. I don't want to live my parents' life. I don't want their life. I don't want my siblings' lives. I don't want my friends' lives. I want my life. I want to create what resonates with me. And if I'm still telling those old stories over and over again from childhood, engaging all of the emotions, triggering all of the energy again, drawing all of that back to me, then I'm just hurting myself over and over and over and over again. And it breaks my heart because I see so many people stuck in the healing loops, and I was stuck there for many years myself, stuck in the healing loop, just reliving the pain over and over and over and over again, having no idea that I was restarting the story, pouring fuel on the fire. I thought, if I just write it all down on a piece of paper and burn it every full moon, then I am releasing my past. No! You are releasing your past when you stop telling the fucking story. Stop. Full stop. If you're really truly done and over and you want a new life, you want a new story for home, for relationships, for money, for whatever it is that you want to manifest, that you want to create, if you want a new life, then I know you're going to look at that story and say, goddamn, fuck it. I'm never going to tell that story again. I'm not even going to think about it again. I know what happened to me. I validate the story and I release it and let it go. And I'm not going to think about it every single full moon and start it all up again. I'm not going to think about it every time I go into a meditation and start it all up again. I'm not going to think about it in my mind every time something negative happens to me and start it all up again. Disengage all thoughts about the old story, de-trigger all emotions which are creating the vibration. In short, let it go. Let it go. You don't need to justify wanting something new in your life. You don't need to justify wanting a new story. You don't need a reason to want money. You don't. You don't need a reason to want money. You don't need to have been poor to want money. So many people get caught up on like the humbleness story. Maybe you come from like middle class or upper class and you're like, well, I just shouldn't want more because like the people who are suffering in the world, like bullshit. If you want more, get more. Because if you don't have more than enough, you'll never be able to help those people. Sometimes, and this is one of the things I teach my clients, we call it the BS and the BS. You have to call yourself. You've got to learn how to call yourself on your own bullshit stories. You've got to learn how to call yourself on your own blind spots. Where am I playing it small? Where am I telling a shitty story? Where am I making fucking excuses? And it's got to stop. Letting go of the old story is only the hardest part. Until you get to point number 3, which is you've got to start telling a new story. This is where it gets really good. This is where your inner child says, yeah, you know what? Maybe I'm not interested anymore in that old toy because she says I can have something new. Maybe I don't want to play with that old raggedy doll anymore. That's my childhood trauma. Maybe I want something new. What does she have over there? Come here. Come here, I've got something new for you. Point number 3 is you've got to start telling a new story, a new and better feeling story. Because if there is one thing I know that every human wants, it is to feel good. That's what the house was for. That's what the car was for. That's what your partner was for. That's what your family was for. That's what the money is for. That's what your purpose is for. That's what your searching is for. That's what your awakening was for. All of it was in the pursuit of feeling better, feeling good. That's what you really wanted. That's what you really want. That's what you want right now in this moment. I want to feel good. I want the psychic to tell me something a little better feeling than to stop telling the old fucking story. Start telling a new, better feeling story. Why? Because better feelings equal a faster vibration. A faster vibration manifests in your reality faster. Well, how do I come up with a new story? I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to tell you that part too. You didn't think that you were getting a master class today when you turned on this podcast episode. But I always love to tell people that I serve the full meal. If you come and you sit at my table, I will serve you the full meal until you are so stuffed that you're like, I gotta hit pause and take a break. How do you tell the new story? Number 1, write it down. That's probably the most practical way to start. Write it down. Write it down. What is the new story? What do you want? How do you want it to be? How do you want to feel? What do you want in your life? Don't tell me the story of what you don't want, because we just let go of that. I know that you know what you don't want. That's in the past. The moment you stop thinking about it is the moment that you start de-triggering and releasing and letting go of that story. The moment that you stop giving it momentum. Tell me what you want. What do you want? How do you want to feel? How do you want money to come to you? How easy do you want it to be? How miraculous do you want it to be? How orgasmic do you want it to be? How good do you want to feel? How much could you possibly imagine? Trust me, you'll write it all down. And sometimes I look at what a client has written and I'm like, you've got to go bigger. Like, you're asking for crumbs here. I think you forgot that you are God and you created all of this anyway. You can have anything that you want. Don't go small. Don't play it small. Don't try to be humble, because that's just the old bullshit story trying to creep back in. Well, but I only need a little bit. And I know you're a starseed and a light worker and you've got so much compassion coming out of your ass, okay? I know you guys. You're the most loving group. Why else would you come to this place and endure all of this if it wasn't for love and how much compassion you have for the people around you and how much you want to help everyone on this planet? I know where your heart is at. I know you have a heart of gold. Stop telling me the bullshit story of how humble you are and start telling me how big you're going to go, because how big you're going to go is going to tell me how many people you're actually going to reach, how many people you're actually going to help, how big of an impact you're actually going to have. Starseed, stop playing small. We've got to show them. We've got to show them who they really are. We've got to show them how big, how magnificent, how wonderful they really are. We've got to show them how powerful they really are. Especially the women on this planet. We're coming out of thousands of years of psychological enslavement of women on this planet. Our sisters in many other countries are still literally enslaved. Physically, mentally, emotionally. Not allowed to choose what they wear, not allowed to choose what they believe. We've got to go bigger. We've got to show them how powerful they are, how magnificent they are. We've got to show them that they are the power, that their bullshit governments, authority figures, yada, 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 they don't have shit over us. We are the power. You are the power. You are the one. You are the creator and the manifester of your reality. You did not come here to play small. You did not come here to stay small. You never would have found this podcast if that was your path, if that was your desire, if that was your destination. You've got to go bigger. You've got to tell a bigger story. Don't play small in a world that really, really, really could use someone like you playing it big. Yeah, someone like you. I won't even touch a fraction of the people on this planet, and I will do my damnedest until my last breath to get to as many as I can. And tell them they are the one, they are the power, it is in them, it is in you, you can do it, I believe in you, but it doesn't mean anything if you don't believe in you. I will literally do it until my last fucking breath. I swear it. I swear it on my life. I will go all the way. But the world doesn't just need Annie Perry. The world needs you. And you. And you. And you. And you. And you. And you. They need you in your country. They need you in your town. They need you in your social media. They need you in your social circle. They need you in your family. There's a reason there's only one pain in the ass disruptor in my family. But in every family, there's someone. Don't tell that small story again and again and again. That's where you came from. That's not where you're going. I know you're afraid and you have imposter syndrome. And you think that you're not important. And I can only tell you 100 million times, or however long they'll let me do this podcast. I can only tell you 100 million billion times how important you are. How unique you are. How necessary you are. How much you are the one, and someday that code is going to sink into your subconscious mind. That's why I keep repeating it. You're going to hear it so many times from me. You are the one, you are the one, you are the one. And someday, every single one of you that listens to this, you're going to have a moment of absolute clarity and realization, of complete revelation, of, oh my God, now I finally get what she was saying. I get it, I get it, I get it. I realize that I'm the one. That I'm the only one that can decide, that can tell the story, that can stop focusing on the past, that can let go of the illusion of healing, that can decide that I'm whole, that can play it big, that can impact the world, that can help all the people I came to help, that can help myself and my family. I'm the only one that can decide that I'm healthy. I'm the only one that can decide what my body can do. I'm the only one that can decide that I'm a good partner. I'm the only one that can decide that I'm a good parent. I'm the one. I'm the only one who can decide what my purpose is. It was me. It was me the whole time. It was me. It was the story that I was telling. I was telling the story that somebody needed to come along, some ascended master or galactic family or some angel needed to ascend out of the sky and tell me what my purpose is. But now I get it. I get it. My purpose is just me. It's what I decide. My purpose has everything to do with just being myself. Being who I really am. And I'm the only one who can decide that. I'm the only one who knows. I'm the only one who has the code. Yeah, it's you. You're the only one who knows who you really are. You're the only one who knows the story. You're the only one who can tell it. You're the only one who can decide on it. You're the only one who can choose it. Because when you do, all of heaven and all of earth will bow and bend and break and remold itself to give you exactly what you desire. That is your power. You are the one. Stop telling the story of waiting for someone else. Stop telling the story of waiting. How about that? How many of you guys, how many of you starseeds, you're putting it off for a better year, a better day, a better time? When I reach my enlightenment, then I will put myself out there. Then I will share with the world, but I just need more wisdom. I need more channeling. I need more podcast episodes. I just need to absorb more and more information until I literally explode. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for the right time. I'm just waiting until I know it and I feel it. I'm just waiting for the signs. I just need a few more signs. I just need my spirit team to tell me that it's right. It's right now. Well, I have a message from your spirit teams. Literally all of them. And they all say, the time is now. Stop telling the story of waiting. Stop telling the story of waiting for the partner. Well, I'm just waiting for the right guy. I'm just waiting for the right gal. I'm just waiting for the right they, them, whatever. I love it all. In 1,000 years, there will literally be no genders. Do not get attached to whatever you think you are. Be open. Be love. It all changes anyway. But I'm just waiting for that time to come. Bullshit. Bullshit. I call you on your bullshit. Stop waiting. It's not the next job. It's not the next raise. It's not the next level of income. It's not the right time. It's not the right this, yada, 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 yada. Stop telling the bullshit story of waiting. You know how many people are in my inbox every week telling me the story of how they want to do something? And I'm just like, well, why don't you fucking do it? Do it. I dare you. Do it. Do it. Do it. Stop telling the story of waiting. You already know that it's bullshit. You already know it's because you're afraid. You already know it's because you're self-conscious. You already know it's because you have imposter syndrome. I get it. You are literally an alien inside of a human body. Like, you are an imposter. You are. You're an alien far from home inside of an unfamiliar body. Doesn't get more impostery than that. We are all actors in a play. I'm not asking you to change the body you're inhabiting or the name that you have. I'm asking you to change the script and start telling a different story. You're already here. You're already on the stage. You already have a costume on. Start telling a story that is pleasing to you. How do you tell a new story? Number one, write it down. What do you want? Do not tell me the story of what you don't want. Number two, become absolutely delusional. This is essential. Especially if you're interested in working with me and you just love, if you love this episode, this is what it's like to be in my coaching programs, only it's personalized. And I do trigger all of my clients, and they love it because their lives literally immediately change and they start manifesting left, right, front, center, money, houses, cars, clothes, trips, whatever you can imagine. So they hate it at first, but then they love it because of what they magnetize to them by being called out on the BS. And one of the essential things in my programs is you're committed to becoming absolutely delusional. The second step in telling a new story is becoming absolutely delusional because you've got to start being that version of yourself. You've got to start living the story. You've got to start telling it in your head when you're walking down the street, when you're getting up in the morning. You're not thinking about all of the money that you don't have anymore when you're getting ready for work. You're getting ready for work and you're committed to the story of abundance, of prosperity, of financial prosperity. You're committed to the daydream of it. You're committed to the absolutely delusional feeling of having all of this money before it has manifested in your life, because the more you focus on having all of that money and how good it feels and how amazing it is and it's raining down upon you, you're standing in your bathroom brushing your teeth and you're imagining all of this money raining down on you, and it is so fucking cool and it feels so fucking good. And then you get to work and your boss is like, guess what? We're giving you a raise. And you're like, holy shit. And you've still got your toothbrush in your mouth because you were so engaged in the delusion. Like, what the fuck? The psychic, she was right. She was right. What else does she know? We're giving you a raise. We're giving you a bonus. We're giving your partner a raise. We're giving you cash money. We're giving you dividends. We're giving you free money. You won the lottery. You won the scratch ticket. Someone died and you inherited a bunch of money. I've seen it all. All of it. I love the free money one, though. That's my favorite one. The the free money, just ching. You do not actually have to tell the story of how you work for money. You just happen to tell that story, and so you're really, really engaged with it. But money can come to you anyway. I've seen crazy things, like things I can't even explain, that people tell me of how they manifested money. And like, it doesn't even make sense, but like, you got it. Like, you got it. It's in your bank account. It's there. People waking up and being like, I checked my bank account, and all of a sudden I had like $7,000 in it. $7,000. That's a true story. And the person whose story that is listening to this podcast right now. She knows exactly who she is. I was like, holy shit, you checked your bank account this morning. You have $7,000 in there. Money, money, money falling from the sky. Become absolutely delusional about telling the story that you want. You think about it. You tell it with your thoughts. You stop telling the old story. You don't focus on that anymore. You tell it no. You tell it to get out of your mind. You tell it to fuck off. Whatever you need to say to it. Maybe you need to have a stern little conversation with it. However you deal with things that you are no longer going to tolerate. But you commit to telling that new story with your thoughts that become energy, that activate the law of attraction and magnetize to you that which you are thinking about, that which you are focused on, which creates evidence inside of your reality, which creates a new belief. Now you are living literally inside of a new life, a new reality. And yeah, the old one is going to have some overlap. I want to warn you about that because of something called momentum. And when you start telling a new story, you've got to rev up the engine. You've got to put some gasoline in there. You've got to start building up the momentum of the new story. You've got to start building up more evidence that it's working, that it's working, that it's working. And then the old momentum from your old life, from your old story starts to go away. And all of a sudden you're living in a new life, a new reality. And you're like, you know, it wasn't this really abrupt change. I just made a few decisions one day. And I started thinking differently, and I started focusing differently, and I started just being appreciative of the abundance in my life and focusing on how much I love it and how I love thinking about money falling on me when I'm in the shower or in brushing my teeth or sitting in my cubicle at work. And I just imagine this money falling all over me, and it's so fun. And then money just started coming from places. I mean, it didn't literally fall out of the sky, but it just started coming to me. And all of a sudden I was living a different life. Now, don't wobble. This is so important. This is why instead of just coaching people in like a single session, this is why they hire me for months. And it's to get them through the wobble. When you decide on a new story, on a new life that you're going to be living, one that's more abundant, more prosperous, there's more love, you're in the relationships you want, you live in the place that you want, and you start manifesting this, you start creating evidence. Whatever you decide, you must stick with it. Because when you stick with it, you create momentum. If you manifest $5,000 to go on a trip, you need to use that money for the trip. You don't get the second guessing and the doubts and the wobbling and say, no, I should save it. I should use it on home repairs. I should use it to fix my car, whatever. You use that money for the trip. And you start another manifestation for the savings, for the home repair, for the investment. You get to have it all. There is no limit to what you can manifest. There is no limit to what is available to you. The only limits that exist within your own mind. Because when you don't do what you say you're going to do with that money, with that manifestation, what happens is that you start to stop the momentum that you've created. And now manifesting the next chunk of money or the next raise or the next job or the next relationship or whatever is going to feel more challenging because you stopped the momentum. You slowed everything down by wobbling, by saying, well, I got the money, but now I don't think that I should use it for this. I should use it for this. Because now when you start to tell that story, You're engaging in lack, you're engaging in scarcity, you're engaging in fear, you're engaging in doubt, you're engaging in guilt, you're engaging in shame, and those are all slow vibrations. They start to slow everything in your field down. You're like, I was doing so good. I've had so many people tell me this. They're like, I was doing so good when I was in that one course that you taught. I was doing so good. But then it ended, and then I got out of it, and then I started wobbling. You started wobbling. You started engaging in stories of fear and doubt and contraction and scarcity, and it slowed everything in your field down. This is why in 2024, I started teaching something new, because I saw clients having this wobble. And I was like, if they could just understand themselves better, if they could just see themselves better, they would see the blind spots, they would see the bullshit, they would be able to see all of that in themselves better. But if they just had a stronger core, a stronger sense of who they are and their power, what they're capable of, then they wouldn't wobble. They would just keep creating momentum. In the new story, and the old story would eventually die out because it's got no gas anymore. It's got nothing to feed it anymore. So I started teaching something called self-concept. And I love self-concept. Self-concept is a great term. It's a psychology term for what you believe about yourself, who you believe that you are. And this is so much of what I teach, what I riff on the podcast, in my courses. It's what gets me fired up to show you more and more about who you really are. And so I started teaching self-concept. This is really such an important piece of mastering manifestation, living new lives, is having a very strong self-concept. Having a very strong sense of who you are in all of the ways that actually serve you. When most people meet me, their self-concept is riddled with doubt, smallness, fear, anxiety. They have all of these negative feelings about who they are. Negative beliefs, negative experiences. They picked up every story from every mean kid in childhood, their siblings, their parents, all of the people. They pick up all those negative stories and they collect them all. And they create something called a negative self-concept. A belief that they're not good enough, that they're not smart enough, that it's not for them, that there's somehow this exception in the universe. That somehow things just don't work for them. So just like with your manifestations, all of that leads back to your self-concept. All of those stories about your life leads back to your self-concept. It leads back to the stories that you tell about who you are. If you have a self-concept story that you are greedy or bad with money, I hear that one a lot from women. It's like all of us got this subconscious programming, like women are bad with money and they don't know how to handle it. But men are very good with money, so give your money to them. Like, what in the Handmaid's Tale are you talking about? I'm not good with money. I'm greedy. I'm selfish. I'm frivolous. So when I manifest that money for the trip to Italy, I feel like I can't actually spend it on the trip to Italy. Because now that I'm here at this moment, at this crossroads, at the final step of the manifestation, I start feeling all of this doubt about myself and who I am. How I handle relationships, how I handle money, how I handle my purpose, how I handle my business, how I handle my career, how I handle my kids, how I handle my family. And you start to wobble. and you start to wobble all over the place until you are self-sabotaging your manifestations left, right, and center. And then you give up on it and you say, it's not really for me. I need to go back on my healing journey because I'm just not good enough, and I just need to heal every aspect of myself and do shadow work until I'm 90 years old and my life has passed me by, and then I will be good enough. And then it will be time for me to emerge as the butterfly, and then I will have it. Then I will be good enough. Then it will be me. That is the story of a weak self-concept. A belief that it's not you, that it's not time for you, that you're not good enough, that you're broken, so you need to go on these crazy healing journeys. That you need to get stuck in loops and patterns, that you have something wrong with you, so you need to fix it. Fix. When you start cleaning up your self-concept, you start realizing that those are all just stories and you don't have to tell them anymore. That you get to tell stories about how great you are, about all the things that you're good at, the things that you love, what you bring to the table. Because you bring so much to every table that you sit at. But if you have a weakened self-concept, you do not see yourself as you truly are. You do not see your value. You do not see your worth. You do not understand your talents and your gifts and your creativity and your authenticity. Which is just another word for a concept that I like to call who you really are. You've got to strengthen your self-concept. When the doubt creeps in, when the guilt creeps in, when the fear tries to come back, a strong self-concept will shut the door without any hesitation. I will save more details and guidance on self-concept for another podcast episode, so stay tuned for that. If there is someone out there that you think would enjoy this episode, please share it with a friend. If you are interested in joining one of my manifestation coaching containers, I have one that starts in January of 2025. I already have a waitlist going for it. If you want to be the first to find out when that opens, it will open for registration in December 2024. So just a couple of months away. But I hope that this lesson has been incredibly illuminating for you, that you have lots of gold to take with you and to work on and to start manifesting the life that you really, truly want. And I am so grateful for each and every one of you. Thank you so much, beautiful beings of divine light. You already know that I will see you on the next one.